I think most of us can agree that this was a remarkably shitty year. This year did everything it possibly could to beat me down. It came after a year where I was really breaking out of my reclusive shell, attending conventions across the country, going out to cause mayhem with my friends. It was a year where I finally started moving my existential thoughts to the back of my head, where I promptly buried them alongside my most recent playthrough of Halo Reach. And yet, 2020 replaced those thoughts with other, equally disturbing revelations. That I would be trapped in my home during a pandemic with an uncooperative, frankly shitty roommate. That I would begin and end each day yearning for the outside world, where days became weeks and weeks became months, in this hazy swirl of stimuli we call a year. To get my mind off of everything then, I played a lot of video games. A lot of video games. Not all of them were necessarily from this year, but I wanted to talk about the games that left an impact on me. I think it would be more interesting to chronicle my experiences, rather than cobble up a list of games I enjoyed. It doesn't exactly paint a full picture of the year after all, and I'm nothing if not about the full picture. Also, forgive me if the footage isn't the most visually interesting. There are a lot of games on this list, some of them aren't even installed anymore, so what I'm saying won't always match up with what's on screen. Some of these are very long RPGs, so trying to get footage for specific moments would have been a nightmare. So, let's take a look back at the games I played in 2020. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. This isn't necessarily a game, but it's such an important DLC expansion for my favorite game of 2019, I can't not talk about it. This year started off on the right foot, with an update that improved KH3's combos, added a new story scenario, and a ton of new bosses, which are some of the best in the series. It added that extra little spice it was lacking when I pit it against Kingdom Hearts 2, and even dethroned it as my favorite Kingdom Hearts entry. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a game I want to cover in more detail very soon, a game that I think got a very bad shake for so many reasons, but even I can admit that it had issues. Its slower combos and boss design were not quite as ideal when compared to the previous gold standard. Remind's new bosses are so good. The data organization fights are even better than the data organization from KH2. Every single fight is excellent. I had a blast beating them all on critical mode. They had everything I love about KH boss design. They had proper revenge value systems. Their attacks came out quick and were very nasty for the unprepared. And though you went about learning each fight in a similar way, they all had something unique to make their fight stick out from the rest. Luxord's card gimmick, Sykes' bonkers desperation move, Xigbar's ranged deflect fest. Xemnas brings back his laser dome from KH2, but this time you have to dodge and block everything yourself, as opposed to spamming the reaction command button. It's like we don't even need reaction commands as stand-ins for flashy maneuvers, since the systems in place now allow for players to enact those flashy maneuvers themselves. This is one of my favorite things about base KH3, and it was amplified tenfold with this DLC. I don't want to dwell on this too much since I'd like to save it for a full video, but suffice to say, this certainly elevated my love for KH3. Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Animal Crossing is a series I've always wanted to love. I've always wanted to get really into it, and for some reason, I never have. Animal Crossing: New Horizons did not change that at all. I was pretty into it for the first week or so, sending letters to my girlfriend, making the island hospitable, crafting cool shit. I had a really fun couple days with it. And then it got really tiring. People complain about weapons breaking all the time in Breath of the Wild, but I think New Horizons takes the cake for me. Chop down a few trees, oh no, your axe is broken. Time to drag all of your resources out of storage, walk to your workbench, and craft a single tool to replace it. Rinse and repeat every 10 minutes. I found myself returning to this workbench over and over and over just to craft tools. All I wanted to do was gather materials, build furniture, and make my island look cool. That's it. Tools breaking, coupled with the asinine one-at-a-time crafting system, were the biggest obstacles to having fun. It got to a point where I was getting frustrated turning the game on every day. I stopped wanting to go out and get materials, I stopped wanting to make stuff, and I stopped wanting to play more of it. It sounds like a nitpick, but it really did sour me on the experience overall. You have to understand that this is a game built on you returning every single day to do more or less the same thing, so this tool breakage would happen routinely throughout the play session every day. It just wasn't a hump I was willing to get over, and completely harshed my vibe. That being said, I have decided to start again from scratch for the new year. I'll work on an entirely new island, go through a full year of Animal Crossing festivities, and see if I'm still playing it by the end of next year. I'll be sure to give everyone my updated thoughts. I'm willing to give it another solid chance, just because I like the idea of it too much to let so many little things ruin it for me. Doom Eternal. Doom is always a weird one. If you were to ask me in the moment whether I enjoyed this game, I'd say hell yeah. It's kick-ass, high-octane demon slaying with a pulse-pounding soundtrack. What's not to love? The sequel embraced a lot of the classic game's cheesy, retro roots as well. It was more campy, more colorful. I was just vibing with it a lot more. Add on to that more interesting enemies and level design, and this should be a shoo-in, right? Well, despite it being a pretty short game, I still haven't even finished it. This is a hard one to explain because I'm not sure I even fully understand it myself. I don't think Doom has much going for it outside of the moment-to-moment thrill that it provides me. It feels like a workout, and I do mean that in a good way. Grinding through demons is more fun than it has any right to be. I really did enjoy it, but I don't find myself thinking back on it. I did a few levels, had fun, and had no desire to finish it. I still don't. This happened to me with the original as well. Did a few levels, enjoyed myself, never finished it. Probably never will. I would need to interrogate myself further to even begin to understand why that is. The lack of an interesting story is an easy one to default to, but I've enjoyed plenty of mechanically focused games that have had nothing going on story-wise. Maybe it's the level select structure? Again, I enjoy plenty of games with that structure, so I just don't know. Doom Eternal's fun, and I might even come back to finish it someday. I don't regret my time with it, but this is the first time I've thought about it in months. Resident Evil 3. I made a video on this, so I'll make it brief. I went into Resident Evil 3 with certain expectations that were not met. I wanted it to improve on Mr. X with Nemesis. It did not. I wanted it to have the same amount of content and replayability. It did not. And at the very least, even if it didn't live up to my expectations, I wanted it to be good at what it was trying to be. An action game. It was not. I don't hate this game. I really don't. I had a decent amount of fun with it on higher difficulties. It just can't compare to the love I have for the first two remakes. It feels noticeably lower quality, and given how excited I was to play it, it's still probably the biggest disappointment this entire year. Seeing as it came out around the time the world started going to shit, I don't know, I don't have a lot of super fond memories with it. If you want my more in-depth thoughts, I'd suggest watching my video. Still pretty proud of that one. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love this game. I recognize the irony of one of my favorite games of the year being a remake after having railed on the frequency of remakes time after time, but this one feels like an edge case. It's closer on the sliding scale to a full-on reimagining than a remake, and it's part of the reason why I'm so in love with what it's attempting to do. Context, I have never finished Final Fantasy VII. The farthest I've gotten is the Gold Saucer, where I kinda just stopped. Something felt missing from the game after leaving Midgar, something I could never properly explain. Was it the pacing, the direction of the story? Was Midgar too striking a locale that the rest of the game appeared ordinary by comparison? Hard to say. My favorite part though was undeniably Midgar. I adore this place. I adore its societal structure, its architecture, its people, its music. That entire section of the game is one I think back on a lot. Part of me wishes the whole game took place here, which is why I'm so happy with the remake. A lot of people see the additions to Midgar as padding, content put into the game to justify the price tag. I can see why some of it would come across that way, but I actually loved the degree to which Midgar has been expanded. A battle arena in Wall Market, an exploration of that guy who works for Don Corneo, a repurposing of the train yard to tell an entirely new, cute story. I think they could have done a better job overall placing these additions, maybe making them optional. Like, I don't think we should be fucking around with the ghosts when the plate's about to fall, but they're pretty minor grievances in the grand scheme. Perfectly implemented or not, it better fleshes out Midgar and its people. You get more time with the characters, you go on little side adventures with them, and I'm here for it all the way. More than that though, it's not content to simply recreate what worked in the original one-for-one. Obviously there was room to expand, to fill in the gaps with something new. If we're willing to go that far, why not fundamentally alter that base game? Why not make an action-focused system? Why not alter the events of the story? Why not comment on the nature of remakes? And so, we get a remake that respects its source material so much that we get extremely faithful recreations of the standout moments. Cross-dressing in Wall Market, fighting the Airbuster, escaping Midgar on a motorcycle. It doesn't miss a single one of those beats. At the same time, it's eager to question whether that's all there is to the value of a remake. It explores whether or not it might be valuable to travel down other avenues, to take the story in a different direction. The ending has the subtlety of a brick to the face, and yet I still think it's a powerful proclamation for the future. Perhaps there is value in revisiting something when it allows you to tweak the story, to craft something new within the framework of something old. It's not aiming to be a replacement for the original, as much as people wanted it to be. It aims to be a supplement to the original. When I finished the remake, it made me want to go back and finish the original, so I could then theorize about what they'll do differently in future parts of the remake. I've never seen a remake so faithful, and yet so willing to depart from what's expected of it. I respect it a lot for that, despite how controversial it was, and ultimately, it was a highlight of my year. Right before everything went to absolute shit. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. You know, it's funny that I kind of bounced straight from Final Fantasy VII to 8, in a sense, one after the other. It's a small miracle that I enjoyed 8 at all. It's such a messy game, a strange cabal of angsty teenage mercenaries that get embroiled in a plot to destroy the world. Hijinks ensue, some teenagers fall in love, and the world is saved. A lot of it feels like a fan fiction I'd have written in middle school, but I mean that in the most endearing way possible. Squall and Rinoa have a great back and forth. It's fun to watch him break out of his edgy shell and start openly caring about his friends. And as someone who is low-key obsessed with romance as a genre, it's kinda cool to see such a well-made, slow-growing relationship. I eat that stuff up. It really didn't rock my world. It was easy to break the draw system in half. The world on offer isn't super interesting, leaving me with a few more questions than answers. But it was a fun little story that I don't regret going through. I'll take an easy JRPG over a frustrating one any day. It was an easygoing ride, and sometimes you just need a game like that. A surprisingly heartfelt journey through a glorified fanfiction. Half-Life. Took me long enough to play this one, but I'm glad I finally have it under my belt. In a lot of ways, this was an incredibly frustrating experience. It was extremely difficult, sometimes a little too difficult. The platforming was awful. It's a real product of its time. But I also came away from it with a lot of respect for what it managed to achieve, and how easily I could see the points at which it inspired so many games that came after it. It's got a real creepy atmosphere, with its dingy sewers infested with alien parasites. Zen is breathtaking. For as frustrated as I was platforming around it, I couldn't get enough of the vibe here. There are cool set pieces like the helicopter chase with a nice bookend when you take it down with your newly acquired rocket launcher. The assassins genuinely freaked me out. You can only hear the sounds of their footsteps before they blink into view and start ripping into you. It's a good action horror game, but one that frustrated me a few too many times. But I mean, come on, it's fucking Half-Life. Of course I came out of it with a lot of respect. If anything, I'm just looking forward to finally getting around to Half-Life 2 and then Half-Life Alyx. The Last of Us Part 2. I feel kinda conflicted and unsure and overall just a bit weird about this game. The more time passes since playing The Last of Us, the more appreciation I have for it. Ellie and Joel's relationship is remarkably well crafted. I think about that ending all the time. I think about what Joel did all the time. I grapple with how much I ended up loving and sympathizing with Joel despite the shitty things he does. It was a complicated, morally gray journey through a post-apocalypse that got me questioning aspects of my own morality. The Last of Us Part 2 feels a little juvenile by comparison. It beats you over the head with its messages and takes even longer to spell them all out. The first game was all about building a solid foundation between Joel and Ellie, to test it and then to shake it. It was compelling in that way. It didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. Its sequel is grappling with a much more obvious theme of revenge bad, which is not inherently problematic. It's a fine message. One of my favorite games of all time similarly comments on breaking the cycles of violence and hatred. But this game is so blatant about what it wants to convey. See, I do think a lot of people are kinda missing the point when they insinuate that the game wants to make players feel bad for killing people. I really don't think that's what it's going for. Yeah, you don't really have a choice, you just have to brutally murder people sometimes. But you didn't have a choice as Joel either. You were controlling him as he did what needed to be done, and decided for himself that he'd save Ellie and rob the world of a cure. You were technically complicit in that, sure, but the game wasn't necessarily out to call the player a bad person for doing it. They were clearly calling into question Joel's actions, questioning your attachment to him. The Last of Us Part 2 is trying to get you to sympathize with Ellie's quest for revenge, and then get you to maybe question the lengths to which she's willing to go to satisfy those urges. In theory, this is the perfect way to jump off of a story where you mostly controlled a guilt-ridden, emotionally vulnerable man who is not about to compromise himself again. Ellie is the product of Joel's flaws as much as his strengths, for better or worse. She is so blinded by revenge that she can't see the beauty in what she already has. She just can't let it go. But I think it's harmed a lot by how simple this conflict is. A lot of people love to paint the original in black and white strokes. Joel is undeniably an asshole. He made the wrong choice, and yeah, I get it. He made a selfish decision, one that potentially stopped the world from healing. And yet, it's hard for me to be angry at Joel for what he did. It's a self-centered stance for sure, but should Joel have to suffer another crippling loss so that the world can heal? His actions are ironically supported by nature reclaiming its hold on the planet, greenery overtaking abandoned structures, giraffes roaming the streets. How much is there left to save in this world of broken and battered souls like Joel? Is it worth snuffing out the life of a young girl with a future ahead of her to save a world that's already dead? Of course, it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. I'm not saying that. I just find it difficult to condemn him for it. My brain tells me he fucked up, but my heart is with him all the way. It left me so conflicted. Revenge bad is nowhere near as complicated. Ellie goes on a murderous rampage, brutally killing everyone in her path, and it gets to be a little repetitive. Many hours of this game are Ellie hunting down and systematically killing people for the sake of revenge. By like the third or fourth time she does this, and the game shows it off in gruesome detail, I start wondering what the point of it all actually is. What is this trying to say? Yeah, Ellie's path of revenge is turning her into a monster and she can't let go. This is what the game's point is for its entire run. I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but half the damn game is devoted to Abby's journey and her own struggles, so that you definitely understand she isn't the monster Ellie thinks she is. But like, yeah, no shit. Abby didn't just randomly do what she did with no underlying reason. She isn't some mustache-twirling villain, I get it. We did not need half the game to flesh her out. You don't have to treat your audience like they're toddlers. She works well as an antagonist, a foil to bounce off of Ellie. Nothing is really gained by viewing Abby's story other than increased runtime and more murder. I'm sure your audience can read between the lines. Well, actually, I don't know. There are a lot of weirdos who don't like Abby. Please don't loop me in with those people. I think they're weird. Yeah. I don't know. Part of me feels like I didn't play enough of this game to get a fair shake. Part of me feels like I was so exhausted by the discourse that I didn't want to play it anymore. But another part of me recognizes how effortless it was to play the original, and how much I still think about moments from it. I haven't finished it myself, but I've watched the rest of it, and I just don't see it. More power to the people who love it. Judgment. I played this game when quarantine was still pretty fresh and only just finished it about a month ago. Judgment is a great game plagued by a combat system that I've grown extremely tired of as of recently. Playing Yakuza 0 back in 2017 was an unforgettable experience. That game almost feels nostalgic looking back. It was unlike anything I had ever played. Traveling up through the series was a blast. I love the characters, the ever-evolving universe. I don't quite have the same reverence for its combat. It's not awful, it's just too simple for its own good. It starts to get really boring around the 10-hour mark, fighting the same enemies, running into damage sponge boss fights where you play a hot potato for 10 minutes until their health is drained. There's nothing to learn here or get better at, it's just the satisfaction of punching dudes in the face. And that can only last so long. Judgment has a gripping new cast of characters with a set of side quests on par with the series' best. It's an extremely strong story, one that I thoroughly enjoyed. It gave me confidence that moving away from Kiryu was a good move, but it also drove the point home that I'm getting so tired of the combat. It took me an entire year to finish this 25 to 30 hour game. Though I really enjoyed it, the game was soon eclipsed by another. Yakuza Like a Dragon. I know it makes sense in English, but come on. It literally means like a dragon in Japan. That's what the series is called. This bothers me way more than it should. This is my new favorite Yakuza game, easy. To fuse Yakuza with turn-based combat sounds like absolute madness, but hot damn, they hit it out of the park with this. Not only is it a really fun system to experiment with, providing tons of jobs to switch between as in some of the older Final Fantasy titles, but the system is intrinsically linked with the Yakuza DNA in a way I never could have expected. Jobs are literal jobs you and your party pick up. Chef, bodyguard, hostess, what have you. Opening up a bottle of champagne and spraying it all over the enemy will do cold magic damage, and might even give them a cold, which they can spread to other enemies. Bodyguards have the potential to do great damage, but at heavy HP cost to themselves, since they're literally meant to put themselves in harm's way to protect. Not only that, the premise of the story, starting at rock bottom and working your way up, having friends to support you along the way, it is custom fit for a game about leveling up in a harsh world that will cast you aside at a moment's notice. I cannot express how great it was to play a Yakuza game again, where I thoroughly enjoyed every battle I was in. It was like the shot in the leg the series needed to keep me consistently hooked. And best of all, it did not skimp on the stuff the series is known for. Sub-stories where you count the amount of people passing by on the street, where you help a man get back his baby formula, where you help a struggling dominatrix and a masochist numb to pain come together to help each other out. And this is within the same framework that brought tears rolling down my face at several points. There really is nothing like Yakuza, and I have no idea how Nagoshi and his team keep churning out constant bangers. They upended their entire core gameplay system, let loose with their clear love of Dragon Quest, and it was such a delight. Yakuza is a ride or die series for me. Sure, maybe I'll get sick of this combat system eventually, but Ichiban is one of my favorite main characters in recent memory. even among Yakuza games, and I can't wait to see the future of this universe with him and his goofy friends along for the ride. Paper Mario: The Origami King. Again, I made a video on this, so I'll keep it brief. This was a really pleasant surprise. It isn't exactly what I wanted from Paper Mario, but I'm also glad this is what we got. It tries a lot of new things that I think it was very successful with, while inheriting many of the traits which made me fall in love with Paper Mario in the first place. Great characters, solid comedic writing and world building, and a neat adventure game structure. It was a much easier pill to swallow after I played another game this year that satisfied my more traditional cravings. Bug Fables. As detailed in my video, this is a true spiritual successor to Paper Mario, and for me, has transcended those games. It's scary how much it fundamentally understands what made the series special, and how it expands upon those ideas with finesse. It's a little unpolished, particularly in the overworld of platforming, but it just does everything else so well that I can't be mad at it. It has a fascinating world that's fun to explore, a combat system with even more depth and challenge. It is a labor of love I am so glad I gave a chance. Watch the video if you haven't already. Indie creators are the future of legacy content. They will make the sequels our corporate overlords see no profit in. I think that's pretty special, and after the year Nintendo's had, we're in dire need of more indie creators inspired by their legacy content who are willing to carry these ideas into the future. Hades. So I think I've fallen off every Supergiant game. Couldn't tell you why. None of them kept me hooked. I never actively disliked any of them, and yet I put them down. Hades hasn't exactly rocked the foundations of my gaming taste, but it has been an enjoyable little time sink from time to time. Granted, I'm not very far, only ever made it to Elysium, but it's done some interesting things with the genre that I enjoy. Making little bits of story progress after each death is a really good way to keep me hooked. Often I find doing multiple runs in a roguelike can become repetitive, so having a reason to do a run every couple days to learn more about the world and characters is a big thing for me personally. I like the combat well enough, though a lot of the weapons don't personally interest me. I like to just go in with the bow and see how far I can get. It can be a little repetitive, especially since you need to do these first rooms with the same enemies over and over and over again, but I get that's the point of the genre. I don't have much to really say other than I enjoy it. It looks nice, it's got a good soundtrack, it's fun to dip into every couple days, and I'm eager to learn more about the characters. As a Greek mythology nerd, I find it fun to seek out media which give their own interpretation of the gods and goddesses. Helps that this game is like the polar opposite of The Last of Us 2 when it comes to crunch. It's a fun game, but there was another roguelike which dominated my attention this year. Risk of Rain 2. I'm not usually into roguelikes, but something about this game is mega addicting. I don't like to play without friends, but with friends, it is such a blast. Each character has a completely unique playstyle, every single item drop affects the way you play in significant ways, and it's fun to experiment with builds based on what items you get. You can stock up on speed boosting items and rocket around at inhuman speeds, or you can get 18 double jumps, or you can get items which let you continually stack bleed damage. You can become overpowered in specific, insanely rewarding ways without breaking the game's overall difficulty. There was never a run of this game where I was too powerful. I always ran into a dicey situation I had to claw my way out of, no matter how many good items I stocked up on. But the game still gives you the feeling of being overpowered, if only briefly, and in a very specific way. It's one of the only roguelikes which hasn't turned me off in the first hour or two, one which let me peer into the potential of the genre. I doubt I'm going to be playing many other roguelikes, but I can at least better understand the visceral thrill of getting a satisfying run. I don't have much more to say other than, if any of my friends ask me to play this, I'll do it in a heartbeat. Fall Guys. I got a lot of joy out of this game. I haven't played it much since it came out, but I've been looking to drop back in soon. I really love the Battle Royale genre. There's something about it I find very appealing, but the more we get experimental games like this, the more I realize that the strengths of Battle Royale are more varied and unique than I once thought. In this case, I love how silly it is to throw a bunch of people into Wipeout platforming challenges and watch all the avatars bumble around the screen. And yet there's always a competitive tension in the air. Who will make it to the next round? Who will win the ultimate prize? It can get surprisingly heated if you make it to the final minigame. And it's hard to get that satisfactory a win out of any other competitive multiplayer game. There's a sense of immense build-up here that pays off in spades. It helps that I really enjoy Mario Party, and this is just a bunch of Mario Party minigames threaded together by the Battle Royale premise. They're not all great, but the ones that work give off this uniquely chaotic energy. Trying to steal each other's tails, trying to make it to the end of a platforming gauntlet, trying to steal a bunch of eggs. It's a silly game, nothing particularly special, but it was yet another game I could load up with my friends and just forget that I'm stuck at home, my anxiety rising through the roof. Crash Bandicoot 4. I am so glad this was good. I was kind of worried about it, but I think it ended up being a worthy successor to the original trilogy while celebrating the entire series. It's a much more difficult platformer in all respects, and yet it still retains the unique level design DNA that made me fall in love with the trilogy. Its story is a little ill-fitting, and I do think they maybe could have split up a few of the levels and removed some of the inverted gems so the 100% experience wasn't too maddening, but I can't help but love it, and the desire to 100% it is still there. I had a ton of fun with it. And once again, this is a little shorter because I made a video on it. Check it out if you want a more detailed opinion. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. You know, I was expecting a certain thing from this game, and I got something else, which I ended up preferring. As a sequel to the original Hyrule Warriors, it fulfills its legacy as a love letter to the series, but this time in a particular way. The original was about celebrating the whole franchise, and it went all out. The sequel is about celebrating Breath of the Wild, and it went all out. I wasn't expecting a Warriors game to so faithfully inherit the mechanical identity of another game so well, but here we are. Though it is undeniably a hack and slash, there were so many moments where I got deja vu, like I was playing Breath of the Wild. Whether that's down to bringing back the parry and dodge systems, the elemental and physics interactions, or recreating the environments almost one-to-one, it's a game which uses a pre-established setting and characters to tell a new story. One that has given me a lot of appreciation for Breath of the Wild's more hands-off story approach in retrospect. Having a spin-off which develops these characters further and gives them a much more traditional battle against good and evil, which makes Zelda into a great character, it only strengthens my love for this iteration of Zelda characters. When I play Breath of the Wild nowadays, I'll be considering some of the stuff that happens in this game, if that makes sense. It sounds so simple, but seeing them all doing something in a story is just so satisfying. It fleshes them out and gives me a reason to want to avenge their deaths in Breath of the Wild. At the same time, it takes a lot of liberties with the story in the same way Final Fantasy VII Remake did, and it has a similar effect. Not only did it accomplish the goal of giving us a glimpse into the past, into the heads of our characters, into the events of the Calamity, it fully accomplishes those goals. We get a clear picture of the downfall of this version of Hyrule, but we also get some other, more surprising elements, which not only offer variety to the gameplay, but change the story in an interesting way that I was ultimately very satisfied with. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, and yet defied it at the same time. It baked its cake and ate it too, but in a good way, somehow. I'm not looking to spoil this game, so I really can't go into detail on this until my inevitable video, but I really loved this game. I'm still getting some of the side content done. Its characters are all some of the most varied and unique I've ever seen in a Warriors game mechanically, even more so than the first Hyrule Warriors. It's some of the most fun I've ever had with a Warriors game, and made me feel all nostalgic and warm inside for a game I played almost 4 years ago. It lived up to expectations and beyond. Kingdom Hearts: Melody of Memory. This was a really fun walk down memory lane. I love the music of Kingdom Hearts. Yoko Shimomura is my favorite composer for a very good reason. It was really relaxing to relive those memories through music, which is probably one of the most powerful nostalgia agents for me personally. When I listen to music, I have such a vivid memory of when I first heard the song. It's insane. Playing this game really brought me back. I've been with this series from the beginning, through thick and thin, journeying up, playing through all the songs. It really made me smile, you know? In such an oppressive and shitty year where I felt worse than I ever have before, this game brought me back to simpler times. It's really nothing special. It's a rhythm game, a fun one, but a rhythm game nonetheless. It's decently challenging on proud mode, and I'm gonna be going back to get higher scores in the songs I love, but mostly it was a nice little excursion, and helped to remind me why I'm still head over heels for this dumb franchise. Among Us. Ever since Secret Hitler released, I've been in love with social deception games. They're so hard to get set up, you always need so many people, and it feels like a lot of my friends don't have the insane reverence for them that I do. So it goes without saying that I did not get to play Among Us as much as I would have wanted. But that does not take away from the fact that I really love it. It's insanely chaotic, it creates some of the most memorable arguments I've ever had. It's just so fun to dupe people, or to figure out who's duping you, or to be completely certain you know who's duping you, only for it to be someone else entirely. There's just nothing else like it. Its minigames are pretty simple by design, but I love how it splits everyone off into different corners of the map, giving the killer a lot of options when it comes to pinning blame. It also really rewards knowledge of the map in minigames when trying to weasel your way out of a bad situation. I love Secret Hitler, but for some people it's probably a little unintuitive since there are so many rules to go over. What faction are you a part of? What powers are you granted? It's all very abstract at first. You have to explain it, get a few games in, and hope that everyone clicks with it. For Among Us, it might be a little confusing at first, but you can play a quick game or two and immediately understand what's going on. There are 1 or 2 imposters, you need to boot them off the ship, but they can also kill people. That's it. That's all you need to know, and I think that's why it's taken off in such a big way. Hopefully I'll be able to play a lot more next year, because although it's hard to find a giant group to play with, it is an unforgettable gaming experience when you do. Dragon Quest XI. If you were to ask me what my game of the year is from this year, I'd either say Final Fantasy VII or Yakuza 7. You know, I didn't notice until saying this out loud, but they're both fucking 7. They were both the highlight of my year when it came to gaming. I love them and have a genuinely hard time deciding. But if you were to ask me what my favorite game was all year, irrespective of release date, it would be Dragon Quest XI, my first foray into this monolithic series. And what a foray it was. Thing is, I still haven't technically beaten this thing yet. I saw the credits, I did beat it, but there's so much left to do, to see, to explore, and yet it doesn't feel like too much. I could put this game down right now and still be happy, but whenever I want to jump back in, see more of this world, of these characters, I can do so. And that was one of the things I loved most about this game. It's paced so incredibly well. I was worried going into this one. It's part of the JRPG Godfather franchise with all of the strengths and weaknesses that entails. In my eyes, it was the bog standard JRPG. How could it possibly live up to the good ones that I've played? I mean, I've tried to play so many Final Fantasy games, so many older JRPGs like Xenogears, and really the only ones I've come out of enjoying are titles like Chrono Trigger. Often, traditional turn-based JRPGs just don't have much to offer me personally. I don't know how to express how wrong I was. Sure, this game's story is simple. You're after the Dark Lord. That's basically what it amounts to. But it doesn't revolve around its story, it's much more about the journey. Each town you visit has its own story arc, segmenting the story into easily digestible chunks. I could dip in and out of it whenever I wanted, because the next story would be different from the last. It was almost like watching an episodic TV show. You know the Dark Lord is looming, and you're still making progress towards that goal, but you get really intimate, contained stories along the way. a mermaid separated from the love of her life for hundreds of years, a mural that abducts people and traps them in a dark dimension, a city that's been completely frozen over. Everywhere you turn, there's something new and unexpected waiting for you. It is adventure in its most distilled form. The characters you journey with don't have incredible depth, but they're really fun to hang out with, and learning more about them along the way leads to some surprisingly heartfelt moments. This story, simple as it may be on the surface, does a heck of a lot to twist your expectations of it, while remaining straightforward through and through. This game is still relatively new, so I don't want to spoil too much of it, but rest assured that all of the twists and turns you likely know about if you've played really caught me off guard and made the adventure all the more interesting. I think this year more than any other, triumphing over a great evil felt so much more satisfying. It's a classic story, a classic adventure that I was swept up in throughout its entire run, and yet there's still more to do and see. I don't have time to go in depth with all of the reasons I love this game. Not yet, anyway, but it really was the gaming highlight of my year, and I'm so glad I took the plunge. I think it helped me to realize that turn-based JRPGs have a lot of power. They only need to be willing to tap into it. They have the potential to be some of my least favorite games ever, but when they're done right, when they work, they are something truly special. Epilogue, ending, conclusion thing. Those are all of the games I played this year. Frankly, I don't know how I would have gotten through it all without video games. I think there's a reason why video games are so uniquely powerful for me. I can watch a movie and let a few hours go by, but they're very fleeting. I enjoy them, I talk about them for a bit, and then I move on. Escapism is an obvious strength of games, but this year especially, being able to escape has been a powerful tool. I don't want video games to be my escape from the real world. I don't want to ignore the beauty of the world around me in favor of being in a game world. But this year, where I literally couldn't go out, do anything, being able to escape made it all so much more bearable. I recognize that this job puts me in a good spot. I work from home. I don't have to brave retail, deal with shitty people who might have the plague. I'm so thankful that I even can escape day after day and pass the time with something other than pacing around my house all day, trapped in perpetuity. I'm sure it sounds kinda cheesy, but this year was a stark and somewhat painful reminder of why I love this medium enough to make dozens of YouTube videos about them. This was one of the worst years of my life, but man, at least I got through it. So many people didn't make it through. So many people aren't here to watch. So many people. And my heart goes out to everyone affected. Despite my mental health anguishing, falling deeper and deeper into the abyss, I still feel like I came out of it luckier than most. Please, please, let things be a little better soon. Let it be better than this year, at least. We'll always be fighting for a better world, I know that. But even if things never shape up, I guess I'll always have the games I love to push me through it. Thank you for watching this year. I'm so incredibly thankful for all of you. I hope things get better for all of us, and most of all, I hope we can all have some well-deserved fun next year.